the fun of being live. It's the browser decided to freeze, so I couldn't see what anyone was saying, what anyone was doing. That's always fun. So here we are, another week, and Bitcoin's gone sideways again. So we've slowed down. We're still in that range, and we're going to check that out. But first, let's have a look at free signals with WeX. So WeX are our sponsors of trading crypto this week. We've got a new name. Binance stole our name, so we don't want that to be clashing. So we are now trading crypto this week, and thank you to WeX for being our sponsors. Now, if you want free scalp trades, you can head to Getting Started in Crypto. This is the page that you're seeing. Click on the free scalp signals here, fill out the form, sign up to WeX, and then you will get the signals. So let us know. They've been so good. If you're on X, head to Crypto Getting, and you'll see the profits that we've been having come in over the last few months for that. It ranges from about sort of 150% to about 250, 300, sometimes even more, depending on what the market is like. But we've always had profits in that. So we're doing really well, and you can do really well as well. So go over there. It costs you nothing. And you just head over to WeX and sign up and to join our free signals. So you must do it with my referral link to get the free signals. So make sure you do that. Next part of housekeeping is a little bit more exciting. And I'm going to keep you updated over the next few weeks because we've got a lot of stuff happening with Coin Runners for those that have been following this project for such a long time. So it was launched. This is the project, coinrunnersmovie.com. If you want to check it out, there's still NFTs available. We didn't sell it out. I anticipate we will with the upcoming news. So that's going to be happening over the next few months as we get those sort of contracts in place. I had a 3-hour meeting on Friday about this, and it's huge. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I can't really say everything yet, but I'm super excited. Of course, we've got Felipe Mucci as the director. We've got Abby Cornish. We're in the process of signing a sales agent to do rest of the world sales for anyone that knows films and that kind of thing. We need that in place for our investors to sign. So we've got investors lined up that want that in place. So we're doing that at the moment. And then we've got, and the script is out with a majorly huge male actor for the lead. So there's been a little bit of chatter about that as well, back and forwards with my lawyers. So that has been really epic. So I'm super excited, and we hope to have this all wrapped up and fully funded, because we'll be going for government funding as well through Australia. Government funding here is 40% of our budget. So we aim to raise about $6 million US. We're in the process of doing that. We're doing really well. And then the government will hopefully give us that 40%. We meet all the criteria. I'm Australian. It's an Australian film and was written by an Australian because that's me. And so it is this close. So the next couple of months, we're going to have some big announcements coming. I anticipate that's going to happen because these meetings have been mind-blowing. And it's just so exciting to see it all coming together finally. So enough about that. I know you guys are here to hear about Bitcoin. So, but I did want to tell you all that because, I get lots of messages and, how's it going? I've never given up on this. this is something that I have kept going and kept doing. Films are really hard to get made. Like, even if you're, the biggest star in the world, films are really hard to get made. So, but we're doing it. We're doing it. It's happening. Yeah, so super exciting. So yeah, let's jump straight into BTC. Now we've got this most boring sideways channel pattern here. The MA is coming down to meet us where that's underneath the pivot, which is not ideal. We do have a little bit more volume coming in today, which is nice. This is the daily chart. We've got a trading range at the moment that is in between two very important pivots. Let me get some glasses so I can actually see the numbers. And those pivots are 89,350-ish, depending on exchange. Now, those prices are going to vary depending on what exchange you are on. They're normally by about $15, $20. So when I say that, just take it with a grain of salt. It might be, $20 either way. So 89,350. This is a FEMEX chart. And then we've got an upper pivot of 93,269 on this chart. So maybe 93,300, that kind of range is going to sort of be that upper pivot. Now, it's been trading in this range since the 7th of Jan, so, 5 days. It's getting pretty boring. We've been trading this sideways pattern since the 21st of November. So we're kind of heading into this. We're in the second month. We're then heading into the third month. It doesn't look like we're getting a rate cut at the FOMC at the end of this month. There's lots of chatter in the US about tax cuts, about credit cards being capped. So that may help with liquidity coming back into the market. Again, I keep saying it's the 250th year of independence in the USA. So I think that will play a big, part of what happens with the markets. I don't think they want that to be a down year. And I think, there's a little bit of manipulation happening over the past year to bring that sort of into this year and, change the cycle around just ever so slightly. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with BTC. I do think we will break higher. I think we'll fill out that channel. Top of the channel, next pivot up there is 98,915. Ideally, we want to get to this 106, 108. Once we get to that region, then we can have another pullback, and then we assess where we're going in this pattern. So, whether we're sitting and holding that head and shoulders pattern, and we're filling that out as, there's a couple of Elliott wave patterns that are quite sort of, critical and pivotal in those regions. I'm just going to bring up actually some Elliott wave, and that way you guys can have a look, because there's some really interesting patterns that could form in this region. And it takes BTC into some really different regions. So in different sort of patterns, different, the bears are literally going to get absolutely annihilated if some of these patterns happen. When we go back in time, we see the rule of alternation. We had, I'm going to bring this up to a higher time frame while the Elliott wave chart decides it doesn't want to load. So, oops, all bunched up. Let me de-squish that. Okay. Take that out of the way. So if we look at this rule of alternation, so people are saying, okay, because it happened here and it came down here, it needs to happen here. Rule of alternation says that, if this side was a deeper correction, this next wave will be shallow. So, if we're saying this is a fourth wave, it could even, we haven't even broken the pattern where this is potentially, you know, a very tight second wave. So going into a third super cycle wave, which I will explain as well. So when we're looking at, so while my Elliott wave page doesn't want to load, while we're looking at this, I will show you. So super cycle is an Elliott wave term. So we bring this up and we can see that, you know, there's all different. So you get 5 waves, you get a correction, you get another 5 waves, you get a correction, you get 5 more waves, you get a correction. So when you've got a full block of 5 waves, 2 corrections, and you're going into the next one, so you start as a minuscule. The next one, so you've got 5 waves now, you're coming into the next correction, that's a submicro. So that submicro then does 5 waves, 5 more waves, and then goes into correction. It goes into a micro pattern. So you then do a full 5 waves with 5 waves with 5 waves. So it keeps stacking up. Then you've got a sub minuet pattern. So it keeps going until you get to a super cycle pattern. So when COVID hit, I was so bored. I, you know, couldn't do anything, couldn't leave the house, couldn't go anywhere. Excuse me. Gets a cough saying COVID. I sat there and I went back to the beginning of time on Bitcoin and I counted all the waves. So we got to the point where I was like, okay, this is going to 69. We went to 69. So we've hit those super cycle levels on fib projections, on, you know, that sort of thing. So we're at the point where this wave here is a wave 1 of the super cycle. So that means within that wave, we've got cycle, primary, intermediate, minor, minuet, minuet, subminuet, micro, submicro, and minuscule. So they're all the levels that go into that wave pattern. And if you break it down and you go back down to the lower time frames, you will find that you've got 5 waves, 5 waves, 5 waves, 5 waves, and then it all builds up to be a super cycle wave. So that's kind of what's happening at the moment with the Elliott wave. So when somebody says we're in a super cycle, that's what they're talking about. So basically a super cycle just means it's a larger wave pattern and that there's a lot more volume, a lot more money coming into the market. Obviously in these regions where it's corrective, that doesn't happen. So, but once we get into those higher levels and the higher time frames, this is a monthly, we're looking, you know, where we've got quite a bit of volume sort of entering. So when we take it right back down and we go, say, to a 15-minute, we're not going to have, you know, it's not as bad as some of the alts where we're quite patchy. But, you know, 15-minute on Bitcoin is still quite, you know, a solid looking chart. On some of the lower level exchanges, you're going to get patches. But it's still a nice looking chart. It's not gappy. It's not sort of falling apart. It still has the liquidity in there for that to move up. So when we're looking at this, and you can go down. So we saw one candle at that point when we're on the monthly chart, and now you can see, like, you know, 10 little waves in there. And you know, this is quite a choppy pattern, I will admit. It's like one of the ugliest patterns. When we go into these corrective phases, it gets really ugly. So we just need to go, okay, there's several different sort of patterns we can be looking at, and what are they? What do they involve? What are the levels that sort of confirm these patterns are happening, whether they're going down, whether they're going up? And that's why we look to these pivots. So in Elliott wave, there are certain rules that say, okay, if it hits this level and it breaks this level, then that means it's bullish, even if it has a correction at that point, because quite often it will tap the level. So it'll come up here, it will tap this level, it'll come back down and do another correction. But at that point, we know it's bullish because it's hit those levels and we're going, okay, this is now a pattern change and we're going up. So if we come down and we break this level, then we go, okay, we're bearish now. And, at the moment, we're trading in no man's land. So that's why it's kind of been a bit like all over the place for everyone. And hence my video, sit on your hands, because that's what, we need to be doing at the moment, because we're just sitting there and chopping up money and just waiting until there's more liquidity. So let's jump this back up to the month. Yes, it condenses, and we can see these monthly candles are looking, quite nice. We've got this very, very bearish candle at this point, and we've got, a nice wick on that support. So if we go back down and we see we've got a nice bounce on that support, we want to hold that support. So ideally, if we break down to, kind of the 74 to maybe even 72, we're still within that pattern. We do not want to break down below the $69,000 high, because that breaks the overall pattern. And, then we're looking at sort of deeper corrections, maybe some bounces, but deeper corrections. So at this point, we definitely want to hold that level. We ideally want to hold this purple diagonal, because that has been quite a really good support. So we've got, the April 21 high, where we got to 66. So if you go back through my Twitter, I think this was the time when I was drawing my little characters on the charts, because we were in COVID and I had lots of time to do all of that sort of stuff. So I wrote all these little stories around the characters and what they were doing, who was doing what in the market. But we had Route 66 at that point, because that was one of our targets. So one of our super cycle targets. Then we had the correction, which, we could see that we were getting this consolidation pattern, which if you go back to that region, we're in the same pattern now. So this area here is this area here now. So have a look, this candle here, this candle here. So, we've got a very similar pattern forming at the moment. So when, people are saying, okay, bear market's in play, it's not confirmed yet. It's not 100% confirmed yet. So you can't just sit there and go, this is the way we're going, this is what was happening. We're sitting in between those two pivots at the moment. We haven't got an overall direction. I do think we're going to come up and tap this region, this 106 to 108, and then pull back down. And at that point, that is where the bears are literally going to be screaming at us all that this is bearish, this is going down to 30, this is going down to 40. And, at that point, we'll be like, okay. But I don't see that happening, because if we can't see it on this chart, it doesn't go back to the beginning of the time. BLX has been removed, unfortunately. But when we go back to the charts like Bitfinex that do have more time available to have a look at the patterns, then we can see that we've got these patterns forming that were from previous cycles. And, that just continues to happen. So that's what we want to see. They're the levels, I say this every week, they're the levels that we want to hold. And I do think we're going to see this region tapped within the next couple of months. Whether this takes until March to get to this point, and then we're coming back, and then we've got a more explosive sort of, mid-year sort of range where we're going, okay, so this is, Europe and USA summer, and, we're actually doing something, and we're making some money. But right now, I think, we're just playing out this pattern. We're going sideways a little bit. By February, I think we're going to be coming up and seeing those patterns. So it's just a time where we've got a lot of patience in the market, and hopefully you guys are not all going crazy mental out there. USDT, this is one that I touch on every week. The dominance chart is also trading between the pivots. We've been stuck there for a little bit, and those pivots are 6.2 and 5.73. They don't change very much because it's a dominance chart. So we want that to obviously break down, and so far so good it has. And if it does go up, we don't want it breaking. Ideally, we want to stay below 6.74, but the major pivot we don't want it to break is 7.53, because that to me might say, we're game over, and packing up our bags, and it's like bears can have just eaten us. DXY is also trading below the pivot. It's come up and it's touched it a little bit, given it a bit of a nudge, but trading below. So that pivot's sitting at 100.34. We want it to drop into the 96 to 94 range, and just that means BTC and alts and everything are going to be going up. It's the seesaw effect with those charts as well. Bitcoin dominance has just dropped off the support. So, there's neither here nor there. We've got this horizontal support sitting at about 57, so it'll probably hit down to about 57, and then trade on the opposite side of this as resistance. So that's not looking ugly. Total crypto market cap is going sideways. Had a breakdown from the diamond. We've got a full diamond here, so we just need to break. We just pierced it through over the last week or so. This is a daily chart, and we're sitting in this region underneath that resistance. So it's probably a bit lower, just at that point. So it's just kind of sitting there. But what I want to show you, hang on, has it loaded for me? Let me see. It doesn't want to load for me. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to go to corrective waves here. So this kind of explains what I was saying with the waves. So we've got, so we can see 5 waves equals our first wave. Then we've got a correction, 5 waves, correction, 5 waves, and then we've got a larger correction. So depending on if this is a shallow correction, so then we've got a larger correction here. So that's the rule of alternation. So if we take this back to my monthly Bitcoin chart, and we go, okay, we've got a larger correction here for this wave 2. So rule of alternation says if this is a shallow correction, this will be a correction like this. But at that wave 2, we've got this correction. So go back to my BTC chart. We've got this correction. This is a shallow correction. So that's the rule of alternation in Elliott wave. So if one correction's deep, the next correction will be shallow. So that's what I believe is happening at the moment. Now, if we go, this kind of explains like how many waves go into these grand and these super cycles. So we're still within a super cycle. We're not even at a grand super cycle yet. So there's so much time. So, that's like that's decades away. It's taken us like, more than 15 years to get to this point in the super cycle. So you can just imagine how many like waves among waves among waves are in that pattern. So we go down. I'll post this link because this is a really good link actually. Tells you, how long the wave measurement should be, that sort of thing. I'm actually recording a course at the moment for Elliott Wave, for how I do Elliott Wave. I've adjusted it for crypto, and it works super good. But we want to have a look at corrective waves. I should have just pressed the thing, but I was worried that we're not going to get this to load up. Okay, so we go back to BTC. We've got a zigzag pattern here. So this is this pattern here. But then we've got, all different sort of patterns that we can get. We can have a wave down. We can get, this is called a regular flat. So if we were to have a regular flat in BTC, we would get a higher high at this point, and then we would get another correction down at this point. So we could see 128 to 130,000, and then get a correction down to 80,000, and then a continuation up. So that is a pattern that could happen. We've got an expanded flat, which goes more sideways. A running flat, which we get a truncated wave. So we could go up and touch that 130 again, come back down and hold the 89 pivot. So, that's kind of what we're looking at that point. So if we're running through that, then we've got triangles. Now these just go sideways forever. So if we're going into a sideways pattern, and we're looking at Bitcoin being in a sideways pattern, let me take some of this stuff off. I don't want to take my pivots off. Oh, give me that one. All right. So if we're going into that sort of sideways pattern, we would get, which could go sideways for like a little bit. And then, we've got an A, a B, a C, a D, and an E. And then we're sideways. We're sideways maybe for half a year, and then we're taking off. And then, by that stage, you guys are all losing your mind, and, you've given up on crypto because we've gone sideways for a little bit. Or a long bit. So, that's another potential pattern at that point. Now, these patterns can range all kinds of ways. And, when we're looking at sort of head and shoulders, have a look at these. Like, we're coming in and we're looking at, head and shoulders at all of these patterns. And this is where the bears come in, and they're like, but there's a head and shoulders there. This is breaking down. But they don't break down because they hold support. So, you've got to look at every single pattern when you're, in these parts where we're going, okay, where are we sort of going? And then we've got extended patterns where, if you go back to 2018, this chart doesn't have it, but if you go back to 2018 into that correction there, we got what is known as a WXYZ pattern. So this pattern, and you can see how sideways it is, that's a WXY. So we got a WXYZ, which went that long. So it just keeps going sideways, 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 sideways. And, this is where everyone gets angry. Everyone gets nasty. Everyone's like, this Bitcoin's dead. It's absolutely dying. And it's just because it's an extended wave pattern. So that pattern went to about 3,200 from memory. And then we continued and we headed up from there. So we did that wave up where we had a nice high, and then by COVID we were back down at around 15. So that's kind of how the wave cycles work. So I would recommend, I'll put this link up on X, having a look at it and just breaking down where these patterns are, what we're doing. Now, if we're looking at structure at the moment, we're still within probably an ABC, like standard regular flat pattern. That's the ideal pattern for this region. So it would look something like this. So we've got an A, we do a B to this point, and we do a flat C. Now this can go to that 72K mark. So, and that's okay. It doesn't break pattern, but that will encourage the pairs to like absolutely short the hell out of this. And probably once we get to these, points here, and if we get a small bounce and a a rejection at that point, that's where the bears will be absolutely loading up, and that will be the bulls' rocket fuel. So, and that's literally where the market starts to turn. So where we've got those levels of, people that are over leveraging, and, that's where the market turns. So we've got a little bit to go before we actually understand what this pattern is. We are sitting in, like I keep telling everyone, the middle of these pivots. So that doesn't give me a lot of information about which way or which direction this is going. So if anyone says that this pattern is particularly bearish, particularly bullish, it's neither at the moment. It's sitting in no man's land where we're still guessing. We're still going, okay, if this happens, then I believe this will, be the most likely pattern. But patterns change. So, we want to be sort of really cautious when we see a bounce. We got some really good bounces last weekend at getting started in crypto. We're now sitting on our hands again. We've got a couple of trades open at the moment, but, nothing sort of huge. We're being super cautious with where, we move stop losses, we take profit, because this is a really tight region for trading. So, and that's what you want to be doing. Now, let's head into ETH. So, similar situation. We've had a bit of a nice bounce today, and we have touched that pivot. So that does mean, probably we will get a rejection at that resistance. Resistance is sitting at about 3,222 at this chart. Now, it could do, a pullback at this point. Corrections don't always go to the resistance regions. They sometimes just pull back where they want to, because we are getting, this is a 4 hour. So on the daily, we probably have a lot more room to move. So I would advise, if you are trading, to go up through the, the levels to see where the indicators and all the MAs and that sort of thing, if you use them, are sitting, because we can see here that on the daily, the stock has just turned bullish. So that means that this has got more in it. When we go back down to the daily and we go to the 4 hour, we can see at this point, okay, we're having a pullback. That's a 4 hour. So that means it'll be over the next 4 hours that we're pulling back. Then we need to reassess where that's sort of sitting at that point. But, putting at higher levels, we're like, this is still, predominantly bullish. So, I would say if I've got like a spot long, I'll stay in that, because it's still looking quite bullish. So I'm still going to be making money when I'm slowly sort of laddering in for maybe a longer term trade at this point. If we keep, breaking those levels, my stop loss is getting pushed up as we go. So that's kind of how we need to trade these regions, because there's numerous different patterns in play during corrections. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. So I've got a few people in the chat, the tiny crypto droids NFTs. So yeah, hi. How are your NFTs going? Are they selling? Because NFTs have been really dead since 21. So hopefully Mine will sell once the names and everything come out on that film and you guys get excited. Now I'm going to jump in. I've got also Sean Dreyer who wants BSV. I'll have a look at that for you. I did put a chart up on X the other day. And hello, Sadi, you're always there. I've got Ada for you. Because you always ask. So I've preempted that for you. And I've got Coping 57. Happy New Year to you too. So yeah, let me just run an ad for you and I'll be back in 30 seconds and I've got a few alts to show you. And yeah, so let me find that. Probably can't find it. Should have had it teed up before I did this. But beauty of live. Welcome back. All right, now I think I'm the only person in crypto that charts this for you guys. So please get all the BSV people to share this around because I'm doing it for you guys. And I see there's lots of people that chat about BSV. So please share my charts. So this is BSV. Now on the kind of the chart that I shared the other day, I said BSV needs to hold 18.87. We're here. We're almost here. So we should see, so that we've got an ABC forming. It looks like that will sort of hold that range. This could still go up and reject one more time, come back down and do something like that. So, you know, that's kind of our ABC. And then a continuation. We want to see it up at this region here, you know, touching that channel. And, you know, at that point, normally at a channel, I'm going to just get my pen and draw that. So once we've got that ABC in, we've got a pivot here. So that will come back down. Usually comes back down to the median line. If we've got a channel that has been formed, median line is a point where we'll get a rejection or a support. We could get a breakthrough at this point. And then we get to the top of the channel and we come back down. We retest where that top was on that pivot, and that's where we want to break out. So then we want to touch and break this pivot. We don't necessarily need to go through it yet because we do need to retest that we've got the support of all of you guys here trading BSV, and that is when we take off. So once we've gone chop, 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 and then we can take off, because that way we're out of that region where, you know, we've got all of that congestion. So there's a lot of congestion in this wave here, and we want to see that going higher and breaking out. So at this point, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. We've got a pivot, a very important one at 35. So when we get to 35 for BSV, that needs to break, because breaking 35 means this is a bullish chart. So not breaking 35 means potentially it could come back down, and that's where you get that sort of, you know, $5 to $8 point. We don't want to see that. We want to see you guys all getting behind, buying BSV and continuing. So, you know, that $35 pivot is going to be one that I'll watch. I'll set an alarm on that, but alert on that on TradingView. And I've currently got an alert on that 18.87. But it is looking quite good. Market looks like we might get a little bit of volatility this week, especially through BTC and the alts. So BSV might join in with that, but needs to hold that 18.87. Next one, ADA. So this one is, when we look at this, lots of support happening here at the moment for ADA. This is a long-term resistance. So if we go to that BSV chart, we can see that we've got that blue one there that we've broken out of here. So ADA is the same, hasn't come back down and retested that yet. So that could happen. Has moved a little bit more sideways, so it does look like it may hold that region. So we've just had a cross. This is a 4 hour, so we're probably coming back up to do that B wave. So what that would look like, so that's our low, A, B, C, might come back, just hit that golden zone 618 to 65, or it could come back down to the 786. So, you know, that's kind of where it is sitting for ADA at the moment, but it does look like we're getting a bit of an upward move coming very soon. So we can see if we zoom in, you can't see because the candle's there, but we look like we've almost got a cross on the 9 and 21 EMAs. So when that cross, that's bullish, and then we will continue up. XRP is another one. So it just sort of tapped out of the channel, and we're coming back down to the median line. So median line sitting at around the 786. So we may hold around this region. So a lot of alts are on support at the moment, which means we're likely coming into a B wave. It doesn't mean that, you know, we're breaking out of these zones yet. It just means that we're going to get a little bit of momentum up before we get another wave down to finish that C wave, and then a continuation. So, and that continuation is up as long as the levels keep holding. So right now they're continuing to hold. So I think very, very soon on XRP, we should get a bounce. It should hold 1.97 and then a continuation up. Just remember, it's probably a B wave coming back down for a C wave. So just to remind you guys, so if you're watching this and you come back to this, there's my A wave, B wave up to the channel, and then a flat sort of C wave. So this one can go back down lower. So we hope it doesn't do that, but the pattern says it can. So XRP still is in the region where it's still quite corrective. Solana is up above the resistance. It had a support here, broke down, tapped it 3 times, broke through on the 4th. If you've watched for a long time, there's always 3 taps either way, and then it breaks through or it breaks down. So it's come back down. It's had a couple of different taps on here. We now want to go up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4th tap, we're going up. So if we don't break that, it's going down, down, down to Funky Town. So, and you don't want that to happen. So now I want to show you Litecoin, because Litecoin's quite interesting at the moment. So when we go to CoinMarketCap, now I always look to CoinMarketCap and I go, okay, what's happening? So we've got Monero here. Okay, that's looking really green and up. Leo's kind of looking like it might be turning, or it's just coming to the end of the correction. And, you know, AVAX still quite green, probably, you know, has done a little bit today, not a huge amount over the last 24 hours, 14%. Oh, it's Canton, sorry. So 14% on Canton. So if we're looking at this and we're going, okay, Litecoin here looks likely it's turned down. So that to me is starting to look interesting, because, you know, the wave's turning down, it's starting to kick up, which means potentially this is starting to change around. So this is when we want to then go in and have a look at the Elliott wave pattern. So there's a couple of patterns starting to do this. So Shiba Inu, HBAR starting to do this, World Liberty Financial. So this could just be that B wave that's about to go into play. So when we go into Litecoin, potentially this is a signal. So, if you're in getting started in crypto, if you're just watching this is a signal that you can actually trade. So it should hold 72 as the stop loss, but it may even come back down and retest that support on that breakout wedge. Now, it could be going in, looking at that pattern on CoinMarketCap, and then we're looking at the pattern live. Potentially, we're going in for that ABC, A, B, C, comes back down. And then at that point is when we want it to take off. So, at that point, we want, the C wave come back in, and then it, absolutely smashes through all of these targets. So that's kind of what happens. A lot of the time it'll go to target 1 within getting started in crypto. Sometimes it goes to target 2, but most of the time it'll go to target 1. It'll come back down, it'll hit the buy zone again, and then it will continue up. So, that's kind of how the patterns work. So lots of stuff to think about today. So, I'll post a link for you guys so you can have a look. And so while it's going sideways, be super cautious. Make sure your trades are smaller. Make sure you're not going all in. Make sure you're not using like money that you can't afford to lose, like for your mortgage, your car loan, kids' college. Don't use any of that money. Make sure crypto money is disposable income. It's technically a gambling asset. So, don't marry your coins. We don't want that to happen. And just be super, super cautious while you're out there. So thank you all for joining me, and I will catch you next week for Trading Crypto This Week. And of course, I'll see you not on Instagram at the moment because I'm still banned, but I will see you on TikTok. I'll see you on X. I'll see you on YouTube. I'll see you on Pinterest and a couple of others that I can't remember at the moment. Oh, Threads, Lemonade, they're all there. So I'm everywhere. Catch you next week. Bye.